Hello, Steph here. I posted into my WhatsApp group this morning for some inspiration, for some ideas, because to my calculation, I'm on around episode 84 of the podcast. And each week I'm moving through my week thinking, what can I talk about on the podcast next episode? And actually today, what I did is I posted in my WhatsApp group and I asked the ladies in there, what do you want to hear from me? And I've got a ton of ideas. But the one that I jumped on first of all is around how do we let go of regret. So this week's episode, I am going to be sharing with you my knowledge, my experience, my insights, actually my beliefs around regret and how we work with regret as opposed to work against it. How we let go of those feelings around regret or what we might have done differently if we had our time over again. And actually the power that we can draw from past experiences that we may be feeling some regret around. So let's get into it, shall we? So I'm going to start off the bat by saying I personally don't believe in regret. It's not that I don't believe it exists. I don't give any power to regret. I don't regret anything that I have done in my life. And I know that's a really big statement because there may have been things that I've done that have caused other people pain. There may have been decisions that I made that I wouldn't make again the next time. But that doesn't mean to say that I don't feel remorse, sadness, and some of those emotions about those experiences. But I choose to channel those feelings differently because actually I believe there is so much strength in looking at our past and drawing from it opportunities for development and self-awareness and learnings of how we might do things differently should that happen, if that ever happens again. I think, and again these are my beliefs, is that regret and that feeling of I wish I hadn't have done that can lead to and can cause us to feel bogged down, stuck in place, restricted. As I'm thinking of that word and that how I used to feel about regret, I think of being stuck in time. When I chose to see it differently, it meant that I moved through the world. I actually started moving as a starting point, but that I show up differently each and every time. So if I have an experience that I look and think, would I have done that differently if it presented it? Let me get my words out. Would I do that differently if it presented itself to me again? And if the response is absolutely yes, I don't see that as regret. I see that as learning. It comes back to the point I made a few episodes ago about failure being feedback. We could we could put regret and failure sometimes in the same camp, because we can often regret failing, or we can certainly often regret the fear of failing. And I actively choose not to move through the world in the way that I was taught to with regards to those words, because it does come back to our understanding of words, our understanding or the connotation to these words. As I'm saying it, I'm hearing my parents saying, do you regret your actions? And the way I might choose to say that now if I had a small child would be, what would you do differently this time? What can you learn from that feeling that you've got within you that doesn't feel very good within you? What could you learn that would be more helpful for a future version of you? Because regret, if we would talk about the message behind the word regret, for me that's saying I wouldn't choose that course of action again. I wouldn't make that decision again. But without feeling that, we haven't had that experience. Gosh, I hope I'm making sense, because this is all making sense in my head and how I move through the world. But being grateful for regret means that I've experienced something that's taught me something about myself that means I will move differently through the world going forwards. So if we're regretting a relationship that we were in, well, if we hadn't experienced that, we wouldn't be the woman we are today. We wouldn't be making the choices we are today. If we're regretting a decision that we make repetitively, we have some space there, don't we, to think, okay, I can see that there's been a pattern of behaviour here that I consistently feel regretful about. What can I change? What needs to change for me in order for me to make different decisions going forward? When I think back to experiences where I have caused others pain, inadvertently, unintentionally, in the main, I can't remember a time where I deliberately went out of my way to hurt somebody, but I'm probably, I there's a good chance in my 49 years I may well have done that. But I certainly know that I have caused pain to others that was unintentional and wasn't deliberate. And do I feel regret for that? No. Do I feel saddened by that when it's been brought to my attention? Absolutely. And the language I would have chosen to use, which I did choose, and I'm thinking of one very big example that I don't need to share with you, but somebody said to me, your actions caused me pain. And I felt sad that I'd caused that person pain. I wouldn't change my actions, but I was sad that I'd caused that person pain. And my response to that was, my intention was not to cause you any pain, and for that I am sorry. However, I stand by the decision I made, or I stand by what I did in that moment. And actually I could go even deeper there and say, and if you are feeling aggrieved by my actions, there's something there for you as well, to maybe explore a little bit deeper. I wasn't going to do that in that situation. That can sound a bit gaslighty sometimes as well. That wasn't how I would intend that. Oh my God, if you're angry with me, then there's work for you to do there. But a lot of the time when we trigger other people, there's something going on for them. Anyway, I'm completely digressing here. But what I learned from that experience was, maybe you could word things differently next time. Maybe you could speak up sooner next time. The course of action and the separation that came as a result of that conversation, and a relationship that is no longer in existence, I don't have any regrets for. I don't have any indecisiveness around that. I know it was the right choice. But there were certainly parts of leading up to that I could learn from and take forward into another future relationship of sorts, that I could notice those things coming before they happened, or way before it escalated, should I say. So I think that feeling of regret is actually an opportunity for learning and self-development and deep digging into what was really going on there that you are ready to let go of or work with in order for you to move forward in a different space. Because I don't know about you, regret, guilt, some of these emotions are, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, are very debilitating. They can keep us frozen in time, unable to move ourselves forward. But when we do look at this situation in its entirety and think, actually, what is it about that situation that has that's leaving its lasting mark, that's leaving that residual feeling in my body where I think, oh, goodness, I could have done that differently, or I am sad that that part happened or this happened or whatever. Which part of that story or that experience is causing you to stay frozen in that moment and sitting in your body with that feeling of regret, that feeling of, if I could go back and change things, I would. Because we can stay in that, and hindsight's a very powerful thing, isn't it? We can stay in that and then berate ourselves consistently with, I should have done things differently. I could have worded that better. I regret the way I responded. I regret my actions in that moment. Yes, absolutely. And we can lean into that. But unless you start future pacing and going forwards, you're in the past. And we don't live there. We live right now. So at this moment in time, if you're feeling those emotions, what can you do in this moment in the present that's going to help you move forward? What can you ponder on? What can you dissect? What can you really dig into that's going to safeguard you for the future? And then we leave that in the past. And it's not about saying, oh, it's in the past, we move on. We learn. We always learn. We always look and we learn and we pull it forward and we future pace. What do we want that situation to look like in the future, if it arises again? There's some practical things that I work with my clients on when we're looking at the past and we're struggling to disconnect that. But I would say to you, who listening to me today, if you're feeling regret about things that have happened in your past timeline, I would encourage you, just for today, to spend some time digging into that event, experience, whatever you want to call it, and think about, what is it that's keeping me frozen in time? And what do I need to learn here? What do I want to learn here? I've changed my language there. I don't like the word need. It creates a sense of need, urgency. What do I want? What am I ready to embrace about myself that I'm going to take into the future and leave in the past? Now, there can sometimes be situations where an apology is needed, where accountability is needed. Things that sit with us. I had a bit of a flashback many months ago now with something that was going on in my life many years ago when my middle son was a baby. He was probably, crikey, around maybe 2-ish. I had a flashback to a moment where I wasn't my best self and I probably wasn't the best parent to him. On one day, I'd had a bad day and it just came into my mind. I was like, oh, I felt awful. And that sense of feeling came over me. And even though he was a baby, what I chose to do was reach out to him and be accountable to him for that. And I made an apology and he looked at me like I had two heads. He sort of was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about. I love you, and the other words that we said to each other in that moment. And whether he remembers or not, his unconscious would have heard that day and would have processed that. And I think when we have those moments of realization of, oh my goodness, I wasn't the best person I could have been that day, we can take accountability for that, and we can go, if there was a person or something that we can be accountable to, we can absolutely take ownership of that as well. So I think there's that we can bring to the table, but as well as the work that we do with ourselves as well. So I really hope that that's been helpful for you today, because when I think about my present self and the Steph that I want to be in the future, I'm always looking for opportunities to learn and grow and know myself better. And when emotions like regret, like guilt, like sadness about how things have played out in the past show up for me, I will always, with curiosity, think, how can I be a better version of myself as I move forward? Just for today, what am I ready to understand about myself, be accountable to myself, maybe others, and move myself forward in a direction that's much more aligned to me? I hope that has helped. And if there is some elements of your life where you are struggling with this and you're ready to be done with it and you want some support with this, hit me up. I love this type of work because this is where we really get into who you are and help you to adjust your gaze, refocus and move yourself forward in an aligned way. Till next time.